Like you get no privileges as a guy. Let me just say it like that. Like when you walk outside, there is no pretty privilege for guys. There's no like chivalry expected for men. It's a dog eat dog world. Men
Wait,
amongst men.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Juice and Jury podcast. I can't talk tonight. My name is Maureen. This is Shanika. We have a couple of special guests tonight. We're doing a really cool episode where we're going to be interviewing some Gen Zers. This is Ali and Sam.
Hello.
And we are going to be talking about relationships, slang, different things, Toronto things. So thank you guys, first of all, so much for coming on here. I know it's really late and I know you guys are tired, but we really appreciate you being here.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, for sure. So you guys are both Gen Zs, both of you.
Yes.
Yes. So this week, I want to talk to you guys about relationships. But before we get into the good stuff, I wanted to throw out some slang words. These are like Toronto slang, and I want to know if you know what it means.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to tell you some that I know and some that I have no idea what it means. So obviously, one's like greasy.
Sick.
What does it mean? You know what it means?
Cool, sick.
Cool. Okay. Murked.
Ugly.
Ugly.
Oh, it's like literally the opposite of greasy. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you one that I don't know. Hold on. What's nice it?
Nice
Shut
it?
up. Like,
Yeah.
shut up.
Yeah.
It's what?
Shut up.
I
Shut
don't
up?
want to hear
Be
it.
quiet?
Yeah, I don't want to hear
Yeah,
it.
like, be quiet.
I have never heard that. Sean, have you heard that one before?
no, I haven't even heard the first two you mentioned.
Greasy? Greasy,
Yeah.
murked, nice it.
Yeah, no, I've heard Merc, yeah, but not
Merc.
Greasy.
What is, I don't even know if I'm going to say this properly. So if I don't, please correct me. Kiati?
Girl.
What does that mean?
It's a girl.
It's,
It depends.
It's a girl,
it depends
but
on
like
the
it's not
context.
like in. It's yeah, it depends on context. Sometimes good, sometimes bad.
It
It's
could
like
be
a-
it can be used as a term
It's-
to refer to as a girl. Or if a girl is talking about another girl and she says this girl's a catty, she might be referring to her as ratchet.
Oh, so
Mm.
it's like an insult.
Depending
It
on the
can
context.
be. Yeah, it can be.
Defas.
Box. Open
Box?
hand. Specifically.
Like smack
Open
somebody?
hand to the
You
ear.
answered the slang with the
Yeah.
slang. I was like,
Specifically, an open hand slap to the ear, where your ear rings and you can't hear out of that side. You're deaf.
That's what it
fuzz.
means? That's
You're
Yeah, and the
deaf.
phrase is like catch it down.
That
Yeah,
is
you
so specific.
Very,
Wow. Okay.
very to the ear.
Okay. Okay. All right. Run up freak.
say
Run
that
up.
again.
Two different things. Two different things.
Run up freak. What does it mean?
Two different things, Ali. You have to split them up. Run up and freak are
Why are
two
you
different
guys
things.
laughing? What does it mean? Is it something dirty?
You can't. Okay, run up could mean like come at me, bro. You ever see the meme with the sloth like this? Come at me, bro. Run up is like that.
Like you
It's
run
like-
up on
Like you're
someone.
challenging
Yeah.
the person?
Yeah, run
you're
up, bro.
challenging them?
Like run up. Fear sick, run
Okay.
up. That's like wow, old.
That's
old.
old.
Yeah. I was like
Oh my
15. I was probably like 13, 14.
Oh wow.
15.
So this list that I'm pulling from is
10 years
whole list then.
minimum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. This one, don't answer, guys. I want to see if Shanika knows this one.
Oh,
Okay.
God.
Then
Okay.
answer. Tutus.
Tutus? I have no idea.
I'm gonna use it in a sentence, okay?
Sentence.
I'm just gonna read the sentence that it says here. We was messing around in her room and tutus, her dukes showed up.
Tutus. I mean, I understand the rest of the sentence. I'm having trouble with tutus.
I don't. Okay, someone want to fill it in? Someone want to say what it means?
It kind of.
Tutus.
It's like
And all
either
of
like
a sudden.
for real or like.
It means like quickly. And
Yeah, like all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden in two twos of a second. That's where it's taken from.
Okay. Okay, I've heard this one before, but I never knew what this meant. Okay. Blem.
Hi. Chopped.
Yeah.
Blem. Wait, hold on.
Just using.
Did you get what that meant? Blem.
I hope that you were using slang to like define more slang. You said chopped.
Yeah, exactly.
That's some more
Don't
slang.
answer. Just leave it at that and see what
Intoxicated.
Slang. Do you know what it means, Sean?
No idea.
It means like, I think it means, well, according to this, it means like getting high or being high. Is that right? Yes. Okay. You guys know all of this? Like if someone used all these words, you'd understand exactly.
I know you guys are sitting there
Yeah.
confident, like, yeah.
Yeah,
I would-
everyone totally knows it.
I would be able to converse fluently with said person.
Wow.
I would not be able to converse that way.
She'd be
because I
able to
never spoke like
understand.
that, but I'll be able to understand it. 'Cause I've heard it way too much.
Oh my gosh. I would be very confused if someone used all those words in a sentence.
So
Slang, though, I feel like when we were in high school is nothing compared to this.
Yeah, I don't
Like,
think so either.
used to
We
work-
had
used to
slang
be-
too.
Yeah.
Hold on,
we
let
used
me
to-
look up. Go for it, Sean.
Yeah, we had words like chop. Like, did he chop you?
Yes, that's
Right? Or
I remember
we'd
that
say, like,
too.
we were
dry.
on the come down of that.
Yeah, we were-
Or they insulted you, you would just say, dry.
Dry. Yeah, okay. So you guys, like that slang, we were on the tail end of that,
Mhm.
where it began to transform into that. Like
I
what
think
you
because
just
I've heard chop like in that
Yeah.
same context. I think
We
that
used to
was
say
like
that.
grade
Okay.
8,
We're
grade
dealing.
7, grade 8. Yeah,
Like,
we're
oh, I'm
dealing.
dealing with this
Are you
girl.
guys dealing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Okay.
Me and
I
her-
don't feel so bad now. So we were like,
Yeah, you guys were right there. Yeah. And then
I'm trying to think of other ones, other millennial slangs. Like I'm trying to think. Hold on. Slang. I'm trying to think of other ones. There was more. There was a lot more that we used, but I just don't remember what it was. Do you remember any other ones, Sean?
there wasn't that many. It was pretty
Chillax.
basic. Yeah.
Oh,
Chillax.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
We use that too.
Chill. You guys use that?
chillax, bro.
Still used? Okay. I remember.
Chillax. What about holla?
Holla. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So
People-
that we still
That
use
was a
that.
big one, actually, holla. Yeah.
Like I tried to holla at her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we still
We
use
used
that.
to say
All right.
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Or
Do you remember
flex.
that? Flex.
I mean, yeah. I think people
Flex
still use
on that.
Okay,
We still
I'm gonna
use that.
bring
We
one.
flex a lot.
This is a really, really old one. Really old. Like I'm talking about 90s.
Yeah.
Where people used to say talk to the hand. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Like-
remember. I feel like that was like more great.
Unironically, you guys would use that?
Yeah, it was like, yeah, if somebody pissed you off, you'd just be like, talk to the hand. Like you're not talking, I'm talking to you. Kind of thing. Yeah. That's what it
As a
was.
kid. As
Yeah.
a kid.
As a
Yeah.
kid, it was like
Yeah,
a
because
joke.
your parents probably used it.
Talk to the head.
I'm trying to think of what other ones. Yeah, that's the ones that I can think of. I can't remember. I don't think we used as many slangs, I feel like, as
we
people
didn't.
do. And in
But-
Toronto too, I didn't really talk like Toronto slang, even though I was raised in Toronto.
Believe it or not, Scarborough is the East End, West End, and like even I guess in Vaughan or in different parts of Toronto, the slang varies. So you'll have in Scarborough
I know.
a lot of the older terms,
Fair
whereas
enough.
in the West End it evolves all the time.
I grew up in Scarborough, so
Yeah.
I grew up like everybody spoke the Toronto slang from Scarborough.
You
But
guys used to
everybody
say
that I knew was Caribbean anyway, so I couldn't tell what was slang and what was just like their jargon. Do you know?
What I used to hear in Scarborough a lot was "word is bond."
Yeah,
My
I heard
word is
that
bond.
too.
Yo, say word.
Yeah.
Like say
Yep.
word. Word
Yeah,
is bond.
they were.
Yes.
Or
I feel like
arms.
people still say that now, though.
Yeah, sometimes.
Say word
Like the
is still
older
used.
generation. Yeah,
Yeah.
say word. But older, what would you call it? Our age, Ali, probably use that.
I'm
But
like,
like the
we're in the
younger kids,
early Gen Zs,
yeah,
because it goes to 2009, and there's a massive
Like high
difference between like
schoolers.
yeah,
us and then the one
10
people
whole
in
years.
2009. Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah.
And then arms. Like, yo, that's arms.
What does that mean? What's
I've
arms?
never heard that.
So like I used to hear my older cousins, they're from like Scarborough too. They used to be like, if it's like a fence, like, oh, that's up in arms. Like, yo, he did that to you, yo, that's
Oh.
arms, bro.
Oh.
Like
My sister would know these because my sister hung out with like
the
people who speak
Malvern
in
guys.
slang. Yeah, a lot more. Like I hung out in Melbourne for like a year of my life, but not that much. So I feel like my sister would know a lot more of these. But
All I know is like if you were dating a guy from Markham Road, it was like you know.
wait, no, you have to expand on that.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Apparently, Markham Road. We didn't want to be from Markham Road back in the day. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like where the Markham, the restaurant is, the Markham station restaurant?
Infamous breakfast spot everyone would go to after you're done clubbing.
Yeah, I love Markham Station. They just opened one in Richmond Hill right now.
Called Markham Station.
Always there. Yeah, it's 24/7. I
I feel
love
like
it.
it would be the same if it's not on Markham Road.
It's actually dope. Yeah, you're right.
Like
It's not
they
the
take
same,
Markham Station
but
and
it's
put it
dope.
in. Oh, okay.
I really
enough.
like it. We all like it because you can go anytime. It doesn't
Yeah,
close.
that's true.
Yeah.
Very true.
But I like have a little bit of experience with, all of that because I had like a stint when I used to hang out in Malvern a lot. But I never spoke like that because I felt like weird because I'm not from the Caribbean, so it's like it doesn't come naturally to me. And I felt like I'd be forced if I tried to do it. But yeah.
See,
But
when
I
I
agree
was
with
in
you.
Montreal,
That's like me with Toronto, like slang in general. I don't speak it, and it doesn't make sense like coming out of my mouth.
I have a question for you, Ali, though, because you are Latina, right?
Yes.
So do you ever pull out like the Latina accent or start throwing around Latina words when you're talking to people who are also Latin?
probably.
Yeah, I definitely do. Maybe not like words, sometimes depending on the people I'm around, but I do notice a little bit of an accent when I talk to some of the people in my area because I live in more of like the like North York area where it's kind of, I don't explain it, but it can be more of like the hood in a sense, but I went to school outside of it. So I can speak like I speak normally, but then if I'm ever with those people that I'm in more in my area, I feel like I do kind of have that little bit of a sound, or it's not Toronto, but it has its like little bit of like accent to it. So it just happens, I think.
I get
feel
that.
like the Toronto slang was like home talk for me when I was growing up. Like that's how you would talk at home, or you would talk with like my other Caribbean friends, like if we got together. But now it's like an everybody thing, and everybody just talks.
But your parents don't talk like that. I've seen
My parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because you're over and I have friends over. But like when we're home all together, it's different.
Yeah.
If you get what I mean, like my parents wouldn't just, I don't know.
No,
Yeah,
makes
because
sense.
you're from the Caribbean, so some of those words are like naturally from there. So I get that. Yeah.
And they don't want people to feel like they're talking about them. Like, and like it's different if, your parents can't speak the language and they're, speaking in their native tongue. But if they can speak in their language and, they're talking patois and you can't really understand it,
Right.
make you feel like they're talking smack.
Yeah. Like if my mom answers the phone, you would think she's from England.
Yeah. Yeah.
She doesn't have an English accent though.
No, but
She just kind of puts on the British.
That's their professional voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
It's
Yeah,
professional
like
of the
home
Caribbean.
talk, and then you have like your outside voice. That sounds so crazy, but
Okay, I have a
Hello,
question
how
for
are
you,
you?
Sean. Because you have two parents from two different Caribbean islands. Do they have different accents?
yeah, of course.
And because you say of course, but like I'm going to tell you right now that if you're not from the Caribbean, it's not as easy to hear the difference. So like if somebody from Barbados is talking and somebody from
Oh my gosh,
I don't
Barbados is
know
the most
St.
distinct
Vincent or
island.
whatever is talking, I cannot tell the difference.
If
I
you're
can
from
tell
Barbados,
Trini and
you know that's the
Jamaican
one island that the accent is. My husband is Bajan. That is
is
the one
different.
island that you know is from Barbados.
Really? What's the
Yeah.
difference? Give me an example, please.
They talk like this and when I this and
Wait, what? Do that again. Wait, what's the difference? I don't know.
It's a lovely accent when you can understand it.
yeah, it's different. It's like each
Like
island
Irish.
has their own unique sound.
Irish?
It's not, but it's like when I think of it, that's what I think. I think of
Can you
Irish.
please imitate your husband's accent, Sean?
No.
I
No, I'm
think
really
it's different.
like because my husband is Bajan, my dad is Vincentian, and my mom is Trinidadian. I like have all these
accents in your
accent
head.
to it.
See, I know the difference between a Trinidadian and a Jamaican accent, but that's as far as it goes. Like
Yeah,
if
of
anybody
course.
else
Those
from
are
another
two
Caribbean
things.
island comes and starts talking to me, I'll have no idea where they're from.
Because
Like
one is rough and one is nice and soft and
one is sing-songy. Yeah, I love the Trinidadian accent. It sounds so good.
yeah.
All right.
Don't we
I
all?
feel like we have discussed accents enough, and we're gonna move on to relationships. We're gonna segue into relationships, and we're gonna start talking about. We're gonna start talking about. First of all, I guess dating. So Shanika and I are millennials. We're both married, and When was the last time you dated, Shanika? Like you were actually actively dating, like dating more than one person. When were you dating?
I don't think I was ever dating more than one person.
Like yeah, that's another thing. Okay, this is a new thing I think because when I was dating, you dated one person and that's it. You weren't like jumping to 50 different people. This is a new thing I think. I don't think people did that in my time. Do people do that now? Like when you say you're dating, what does that even mean? Does that mean exclusive or just means you're just talking to everybody and what does that mean?
I think the problem with our age is that, like, the word it means 1,000 different things, and you have to be so specific about what it is that you're doing, because dating could be exclusive, dating could not be exclusive, dating could be, like we have, like, situationships now, like, it's a whole there's
What's a
so much
situationship?
vocabulary. It's basically doing all the things you do in a relationship, but there's no commitment, like, that's not your boyfriend or that's not your girlfriend.
Like friends
That's
with
what they call a
benefits?
Yes, and then they always, like, one step further where they're actually, like, going out on dates. It's not just strictly that, like, it's a very weird thing that goes on in this
So there's
age.
no talking stage. It's just like straight dating.
They consider all of that the talking stage, if that makes sense. It's so confusing, trust me.
Wait, let me get the situationships thing here for a second. So you're telling me that there are people who act like they're dating, but they just don't want to put the label on it?
Yes.
What does that mean? Like they don't want to put the label on it. Are they exclusive or not exclusive?
Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. It really all depends, and a lot of times they're not, and one or the other may not even know it, but they'll
Oh,
be exclusive, but there's no title, no commitment, which means I still don't quite understand the reason for it, but it's a
yeah.
thing,
What's the advantage of
unfortunately.
that? That sounds horrible.
Nothing at
Doesn't
all.
sound like anything good at all.
Nothing at all.
Yeah. What do you
Interesting.
think, Sam?
Yeah, it's confusing. Obviously, I think it's just I think as you go further away from the traditional mindset, that's what it becomes, right?
Yeah, that makes
Do
sense. I mean,
you
I couldn't imagine dating more than one person because then how are you supposed to get to know somebody? Because then you're just going to be confused because you have all of these obviously these different people that you're dating,
Mhm.
and you might find something that you like about this person, something you like about that person, about that person. How are you supposed to just settle? Well, not settle, but
How are you supposed to pick?
yeah, there you go.
And I think that's the main reason why things like situationships become a thing, because
Mhm.
everyone's like they always think that there's better out there, so they're just gonna keep looking, and a lot of times they're kind of just missing what's in front of them. So
That's a
it's
big
like
So
a
is
really
it
tricky thing
common?
now.
Is
yeah.
it common that that Gen Z dating life is not like they're not committed? Is that a common thing that people are like either afraid of commitment or they don't like what is that a common thing? Is that like normal? Are you just assuming that if you're talking to someone that they're talking to a lot of other people?
Mm, like I
I think
said
it
before,
depends.
go on.
On what?
Yeah, I definitely think it depends because there is some people in the Gen Zs who kind of have the mentality of like, well, I'm gonna date, I'm gonna work on this with one person and they'll kind of stick to it. But then there's always the other side where they're just kind of dating around or like they have zero commitment to anybody and that's why they don't use a label, just so that they're able to keep looking all the time. So it's just like a really
That's a hard
confusing
cycle.
situation. Yeah, super
You're always
confusing.
going to be searching.
Especially for the people who are maybe just interested in you and you alone, but then, it's hard to trust out here as well because you don't know, right?
So to add on top of that, the mindset of the modern day, I guess like for me and Ali, people our age, marriage isn't really big on their list, right? And
Why?
marriage is,
Yeah.
because one, they don't believe in God, a lot of them, and two, they believe that the government has basically invested their hands too much into marriage, and that for men, I can speak being a man, like there is no real benefit to being married unless you are, say, a Christian or a Muslim, like you believe in God. From the from like the outside
Your
perspective,
dog snoring.
yeah, he's tapped in right now. I don't know, buddy. I told him he was gonna be on the interview.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah,
Sorry,
but
go ahead.
I think because basically men feel that if they marry someone, right, and it doesn't work out, there is no there's the option for divorce for women, right, which benefits them in most cases, whereas in the men's perspective, you lose your children, you lose your house, you lose half of what you earn. There's no incentive, right? So men tend to avoid that for that reason. And on top of the fact that many women have been like highly promiscuous, and then they decide, oh, after 10, 15 people, I want to kind of settle down. And guys at that point, if you've worked to establish yourself, you don't necessarily want to, you know,
Risk it.
yeah, like, because what if one of those 15 guys was the love of her life and you weren't, and you're just number 15, and then so on and so forth. Things happen. And on the
And
flip side too, guys are just not there, right? So
yeah, and like definitely from like the female perspective, it's the same thing where um there's always like the fear of, because I feel like with girls, we have a tendency to be able to push through a lot of the things, maybe like the red flags or the things that we kind of like, you know what, like I'm okay with it, or we can work through it, we can deal with it. And so you kind of just keep going over it and you're fine. But there's some really heavy things, or maybe they go back to like their exes, or there's just a lot of things that we shouldn't kind of hold on to. And it's just because we desperately want things to work out. And then it just kind of blows up in our face when again those lack of commitment. So that's why like I know people who've been in those situationships that I mentioned, like they can be in it for like over a year, which is crazy to me to even want to stay in something like that without having that proper commitment to somebody even for that long. But that's just like what we do, or what some like a lot of women do now, because they're trying to hold on and they're trying to have something. And it also not only like marriage wise being like a religious thing that either people believe in or people don't believe in now, but it's also like an emotional thing. Or maybe if you like maybe grew up in a household that didn't have like it was single parent, it's hard for you to kind of sometimes believe in that, right? So then we're always going after the wrong person, or we're always trying to hold on to the wrong thing because we're trying to have what maybe we didn't see growing up.
Yeah, that is also true. Like if you look at for people my age growing up and younger, the likelihood of seeing two parents together is lower than when you guys were growing up, right? So
Super
you
rare.
guys are kind of recreating potentially, right? Like obviously in the 80s, 90s, there's a lot of like single parents, but there's a lot more now. And you're incentivized if you're a single mother now, whereas before you may not have been as much, right? So you see a lot more single parents. And as a child growing up, you try to recreate what you see, right? So, or maybe not try, but you have a tendency to recreate what you see. So if you don't see a two parent household, then you're less likely to reproduce that, right? If you don't see a healthy relationship, you're less likely to have one yourself.
Yeah.
Or it might push you in the other direction to want to seek it.
Some people, yeah, some
Exactly, yeah.
people, yeah, some. But then there's some, because I would agree with that, right? Like it would push me to the opposite. But
Mhm.
many people, like alcoholism, their parents drank and it pushes them to drink, whereas other people, they're like, I'll never drink ever in my life. Yeah.
I think, yeah, what happens is sometimes if they see broken relationships, they're trying to avoid being in that situation at all costs. So they don't even get into the relationship in marriage in the first place.
Yeah.
They see that, like, I know people who are like that, who don't want to get married because they've seen how painful divorce was.
Mhm.
So I understand that, but you're like literally living in fear. Like you're making choices based on fear.
That's where
And
faith comes in,
yeah, and
right?
it's not something that a lot of people have, like faith. But I think I always wonder if, like, because you were saying that Gen Zers, most of their parents are not most, but there's a lot more single parents for Gen Zs. Gen Z parents would be Gen Xers, would be like the right
Mhm.
before us. So I'm
Yeah.
just thinking, and I'm thinking, like, I don't know about you, Sean, but I feel like millennials are staying together. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. I would
So
agree.
far, we're now crossing into our 40s, and
Yeah.
I've even seen a lot of people divorce. Like of all the people I know, we were talking about this one episode about all the people I know one person who got divorced, but everyone I know. So I think the next generation, the Gen Alphas and the next generation are going to come up completely differently because most of us are staying together.
Can I
Yeah.
sample
There's a lot.
question? Sorry to interrupt. Out
No.
of what you've seen, is the population out of like a Christian community or like a faith? It's just in general.
In general, yeah. I know people who are atheists, but they stay with their partner. They might not even be married, but they stay with their partner.
You know what I
So
was thinking?
yeah.
Sam brought up that people don't believe in God, and maybe that's why they're not getting married. And then I don't know. I was just thinking, like, I know a lot of people who I don't necessarily know their faith,
Worldview.
but
Yeah.
yeah, that is a good point. Like, why would you get married if you don't believe?
There is no,
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
Yeah.
there's no incentive because if you're a Christian, you believe that marriage is you, your wife, and God, right? It's a three-person thing
Yeah.
that occurs, right? And a big part of why, as a man, you wouldn't cheat on your wife is because God is in the relationship, and you know that it's like, the big brother. Someone's always watching, right? And your wife, right? It's more than just you and your wife. So you, based off of your faith and your principles and morals, you're weighed down more, like you're grounded more. So is your wife, and in the
It's
essence of
your
being human, yeah.
God.
Sorry, one, yeah, like you're God, exactly. So it's bigger than, oh, I don't want to cheat on my wife because she's my wife and blah blah. It's like, yes, all of that on top of the fact that God is involved, and I'm not going to disrespect God, right?
Right. Yeah. So your relationship is grounded in not just you and your spouse, but something higher. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then people who have children, some of them don't stay together, and you would think children is like a very
Hold
strong
you.
conduit, like it's a nucleus, right,
Yeah.
to hold things together. But
Yep.
no.
That's true. But I'm thinking, like, I'm just trying to think of all the people I know. So most of the people I know are Christian. I'm not gonna lie about that. Most of the couples that I know are Christian, but I do know couples who are not Christian
Mhm.
or who don't believe in God. And I'm just thinking of the people my age.
Are they married?
Yeah, I'm thinking of one couple in particular. They're not married on paper, no, but they are like they're like in common law, and they have 2 kids.
Mhm.
And they've gone through some stuff. Like if they would have divorced, I feel like it would have happened already, but
Yeah.
they're still together. So I think that there are some people who value the contract of marriage
Right.
and see it as like a contract, and they see it as something like, yeah, like a contract. Okay,
Mutually
like a legal
binding. Yeah, it's mutually
binding in that way. Yeah. So I think some people who are religious might see it that way, but you're right. I think that the threshold for breaking up the marriage is lower if you are just if it's just dependent on you and your spouse and how
spouse.
you just feel about each other.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that's another thing. Like I think I don't know, Sean, what do you think? But I feel like me and Sean are Christian, so I'm just full disclosure. And I know
Mhm.
Sam is Christian. Ali, I don't know
I'm Catholic.
you're Catholic. Okay, that's Christian. So
It
I
fit
mean,
into the box.
I
Yeah.
believe in
Mhm.
Jesus Christ as your
Yeah,
Lord and Savior.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think for people who have that kind of worldview, I don't remember where I was going with this. I just lost my train of thought.
I know where you're going with it. Yes, it even because it's the same in Muslim cultures, right? They don't necessarily believe in what we believe in, but it's right. They believe in a higher power. The
Yeah.
Jews, right? It's the same. It's the same. When you
Yeah.
look at cultures outside, right? Like in Africa, they practice a lot of polygamy. A lot of them don't
They
believe
do.
in God, right? And there's issues inherently when you have too many different partners,
People.
right?
Yeah.
And it's not good for children. It's not good for like your spouse, right? It's yeah. So I think
Yeah.
there's a way we're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Especially if you
But
think about like the spiritual aspect of connecting with somebody else. Like I think if more people knew about that, people wouldn't be so lax about who they're
Mhm.
dating.
I don't know if they don't know about it or they just don't believe or don't care. So like I know people who are atheists who are not married and who their advice to me is like just go and have fun and enjoy your life and don't worry about all of this.
Yeah.
No, no, no. Don't worry about your faith. Don't worry. Like I've had people tell me that. So I think that like if you don't have something outside of yourself to connect your values and morals to, then yeah, it's like a free for all. It's just like whatever feels good in the moment, type of thing. And I think that maybe because there's been such a like separation from like people's people are spiritual now, but it's like a weird spirituality.
Yeah.
Like it's a weird Ouija
It's like
board
an anti-spiritual.
spirituality.
I don't really.
Wake,
It's
woke.
Pardon?
It's like woke. It's like I'm
yeah.
awake now.
The spirituality that I would call like if I was gonna name the spiritual like the spirituality trend that
Yeah.
has been happening, I would call it manifestationness. Like that is the spirituality that I hear about all the time.
Energy.
Manifestation and the universe and energy and yeah,
Yeah.
and like all that stuff. That's what I hear a lot about.
So it's like they're merging science and
It's
because
not
a
even
lot of those
science.
terms, a lot of like the universe, what they talk about is just they take that from science. Energy, they take the fact that energy can't be destroyed or recreated, can only be transferred. So to them, it's like, okay, if I speak this, it might transfer into money, right? Like
Yeah.
that's kind of I understand. However,
Yeah. I think
everything
it's
has a
just
base, right?
a different interpretation of
Yeah.
things that are true. Like a
Like
I don't want to get into this too much because it's like a
Fair trade.
sensitive topic. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like I understand the appeal of it, but I'm not sure that it's interpreted correctly. Let's put it that way.
I mean, I
That's
definitely
fair.
think energy is real, like the energy that somebody is giving off, but I think it's essentially it's their spirit, it's their
Or
Yeah,
or,
like when people say the universe does this, the universe does that, my question always, the question that I always think of is like, is the universe personal? Like, can they make decisions? Can they choose things? Like,
I think people are
they're
just
saying the
throwing out
universe, what does that mean?
universe, but it's actually God.
Yeah,
You know, like
You
I
know,
don't think
like-
they actually know.
Yeah.
yeah.
well,
Yeah,
if
like
you-
I feel like sorry, I feel like
No, no, no.
I kind of have that, like, I guess it can be in a spiritual manner, like the way that I kind of go forward with my life, but because I have my beliefs, it's like my higher power being God. So it's like not me just saying the universe, but like the universe and God are
You
kind
know,
of working together to be a type of way or do something, do this for me, or this is a lesson in my life. And it's like some people just like the universe, I guess it a lot of times it's to people maybe who don't have that higher power and in a real in religion or belief. So then it's some saying like kind of like the universe. But it's like us saying God, right? It's kind of for some people. I know there's a lot of people who kind of take it or do it in a different way, and there's like a weird understanding that they might have with it. But I do get it in some senses as well, right? It's like I can say the universe one day, but I know for myself, I know that I'm talking about God, or like that's
God.
generally the one who's creating my life and my path and what I believe in as well. So
Yeah.
Another thing
Everyone.
too,
Yeah, go ahead, Sean. Sorry.
so something that like I personally struggle with is like sometimes I would catch myself saying universe. I know I mean God, but like for me to say God to somebody else, because there's so many different
Understandings of it.
people and religions, and you just don't want to offend, you know.
man,
yeah.
no,
I say God. I don't.
yeah, I don't care. I don't know,
Oh,
but
like
I
I
God
kind of
get what you mean.
interchange it.
Yeah.
I kind of
I get what
interchange
you
it
mean.
I'll
sometimes.
interchange it, yeah.
Yeah, and it's if I believe in this, like I'm not judging or like, expecting you to believe in God. Like I'm just saying God because that's what I'm used to, and you can
I
say it
love.
however you want.
I honestly like. I love if somebody wants to talk to me about God, and even if they don't agree with me,
Yeah.
I love it. Like,
Same.
let's talk about it. Like, I get super excited. I'm like, yes, let's talk. And then if they have like the questions that most people will have, well, what about evil? Well, what about this? Well, what about, I welcome those discussions. I'm not afraid of them. I'm not afraid of like, because if they're opening it, then they're not offended, clearly. They want to know, right? So I don't open those topics, but if someone like approaches me and wants to talk about it, I stinking love that. I think Sam and we've had these conversations even with people at the kickboxing place we've had because people have they run the gamut when it comes to their beliefs and for things. Like there's people who believe in all sorts of things, and a lot of people form their beliefs without actually looking deeply into it. It's just kind of like they pick like different things that they like and mush them all together and be like, this is what I believe. So
Right.
I love if somebody opens the topic with me, I always welcome it. Like people are always afraid that they're going to offend me by asking me. I'm not offended. Please ask me whatever you want. I never get upset. But I get how like other people, it's a touchy subject because they feel judged. They feel like you're attacking them sometimes, So I get that. So I try to avoid, I don't ask other people or I don't usually talk about it with other people unless they open it up. Then I'll be like, yes, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I welcome the topic too, but sometimes I feel like I don't know enough. Like I think you're really good at that though, Maureen. Like I think that's your
all I do is ask questions.
No, but I think you're really good. Like I think you have great knowledge of the Bible too. I don't feel like I'm there yet.
I don't know about that. But Sam and we talk about it. We talk about it a lot. We've talked about the Bible and God a lot.
Yeah, well, like I think depending on where you are, like I can understand what she means. Like there's some people who are very versed in what they know.
Yes.
So when they come to you with like these dense topics or hard topics that you kind of need, you need scripture to corroborate, or you need external knowledge to kind of disprove what they're saying first, and then you bring in, scripture. It's different. Like that's
Yeah.
what I guess would be termed apologetics, right? It's like debating. So like some people, they're better at living their experience, like living their debate. They just live the way in which they live, and it says enough. And then there's people like me and Maureen who we like to we like to yeah
Yeah.
We like to engage.
You're well versed. Yeah.
Verbally.
we like to we want to get at it.
Yeah, I was actually surprised when Sam started talking once about
You're
like
muted.
apologetic stuff. I
I'm
was like,
sorry.
oh my gosh, where did this young guy, how does he know about this? Nobody knows this stuff. I was impressed. But I think I was gonna ask, I was gonna bring this back to dating in a second, because I want to ask, when you guys are dating, is that
Mhm.
like how much of a factor do those things play in dating? Like your belief systems and stuff
Sam,
like
you
that.
can
Is
go
that
first.
even
Now big. Yeah. Because like I think the more important that relationship gets to you, the less important your outside relationships get if they're not aligned. So like, and it just creates friction, right? Like if you want to do one thing and someone else wants to go the other way, then it's actually perfect analogy. Someone told me that in the Bible when they say like the ox is unevenly yoked, why that was a problem is because one ox would be pulling, right, more than the other, and you just be circling, like going in a circle, right? So if you're trying to go left and they're trying to go right, you're not going anywhere. And this is a big thing that you see in the Bible, right? Like they're told not to mix. It's not necessarily the mixing of, races, like, oh, don't sleep with that race or that race. It's don't mix beliefs. If they don't believe in what you believe, then there's a high chance your children are going to be split down the middle too. You know, so now it's a big
I
factor.
don't I don't think I've ever, not that I haven't like, not that I'm not open to it either. I don't think I've ever dated anyone who's has a different belief than me, whether they are very religious and understand the Bible really well, or whether maybe they're just, in like a spiritual manner, but their higher power being God. Um, I don't think that I would have much of an issue with it, but I feel like I would want them to have that belief, like that higher power, whatever it may be to them. If they don't have one, I feel like it would be very conflicting, because then, I might, like, something bad could happen in my life. I'm like, "Okay, this is just a lesson from God that I need to go through," and them maybe not understanding me on that level, that that's just how I think, or that's how I live my life. I think that that would obviously be an issue, but obviously if they, us just having that higher power to have that type of belief gives us something in common already. And if they, if they're different than mine, then, and if they're the type who want to kind of teach me as well too, like I would, I always love to hear about other religions and things like that. And I don't think it's the hugest factor to me, but I do know that there's certain religions that want to stay within their own religion as well, and that's okay. If I'm not for you, I'm not for you. But the ones who are more open to it, again, I think it just kind of need to have some sort of belief as well, not just maybe nothing, because I feel like that's how I live, and I would kind of want the same for them.
Yeah, that's fair. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So on that topic, but kind of moving forward, it's just because when you guys talk, another thought pops up into my head,
Yeah.
because I have like ADHD, and Anyway, right now, I feel like this generation, there's been like an explosion of trans people, LGBT community, all of that. Like it feels like it's just like a boom overnight of people who have identified as trans or whatever
Hold
it
on.
is.
Time out.
Yeah.
One second.
What?
Are we
Should
gonna?
I pause? Okay, so we're back now. So I wanted to ask you guys the next question, which is, what is your deal breaker? What's a deal breaker?
Sounds like going through a list.
Yeah, I think The number one is highly masculine women.
Highly masculine women.
So a woman who's not in her like feminine energy, like she's not.
Like
Ah,
physically or like attitude wise.
We've
Or
had
both.
this conversation before. It's very much for in an attitude type of aspect.
yeah.
In an
Because
attitude.
remember,
Wait, what does
sorry,
that
go
mean?
on. Go on.
No, like she doesn't let you lead or be the what do you call it?
It's like an alpha
The
female?
no,
Yeah,
it's
kind of.
not
That's what
even
I'm
that.
thinking.
It's
Okay.
like, okay, I can only speak. Obviously, I'm the only man on the panel, right? So, like, I'm speaking on behalf of the general men.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And of yourself, really. Because
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
in reality, when you are like, you get no privileges as a guy. Let me just say it like that. Like, when you walk outside, there is no pretty privilege for guys. There's no like chivalry expected for men. It's a dog eat dog world. Men
Wait,
amongst men. It yeah, yeah. It's only in Toronto that we have this nice culture, and even then, we're not too nice. Especially like I grew up in Toronto, right? I didn't grow up in the bestest area, and the culture amongst men, it's competition. This is natural, right? Like men compete amongst other men. If you have to come home and you have to compete with your woman, your wife, your girlfriend, whoever, it is taxing. And eventually you're going to run out of patience. So what I mean is this.
Yeah, what
Say
do you
you
mean?
come home, right? And it's an argument. Okay, let's talk this out. Let's, dialogue and XYZ. And the voice starts to raise and they start to yell and they start to degrade you. Oh, well, you don't do this, blah, blah, blah. Bro, I could pay my own bills because now we have the push for the independent women. They don't need a man. And most women know, like, why would I need a man for? So they carry themselves like that. And no
sounds
man
like
wants
she
to
has
hear
an
that.
attitude problem. But
Yeah, but that's what I
Well,
mean.
what?
Attitude problem.
sounds like this person has an attitude problem. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but yeah.
I think that's
Yeah, go ahead.
like because I've had this conversation with Sam multiple times about it, and I think obviously he's in his perspective about being a guy out there, and he's not looking for a woman who's in their masculine. But I've had multiple conversations where I told him like a lot of us have either been that way from based off like family life and how we've kind of grown that way. I know I definitely am in my own rights, being like a single parent household. My mom was the one who took care of us and raised us, so she had to basically be that as well. So I know that I have that tendency to kind of be that same way, but also having dated certain people and like different like met people out there as well too. It's like they I can't even be in that feminine if I wanted to because it's not someone who wants to lead, right? So then a lot of women are dating these guys and they're the ones who are planning everything. They're dealing with everything. Like I was in a relationship where that was basically all I was doing. I was the caretaker at that point because I was like their mom, right? And that's not
Mhm.
what we want. It's and then in Sam's like defense, it's like basically him dating someone who just came out of a relationship from that. So then they're in this like more masculine, more role because they had to be. And then now they're going out into the dating world and there's people like Sam who would prefer someone who wasn't. And it's kind of hard to get out of that when that's all you see out there and that's all you have to deal with.
Yeah. I have to say, Sam, I'm not clear on the feminine energy by your example because your example is that you come home and she's argumentative. You can be
Combative.
feminine and be argumentative.
Combative.
You mean
Not
like looking
argumentative.
for an
There's a
argument
difference.
or a fight?
Yeah, there's a
Be very
difference.
feminine and be combative. Like, what do you mean
Mm,
by that?
so when you say like there's certain lines amongst men, if you are say debating with your friend, right, and your friend starts to yell at you or yell in your face or do certain things, the next escalation is physical violence between men, right? Men know this amongst each other, so we have a respect code. We don't do that. You don't yell in your friend's face. You don't do certain things that would disrespect your friend because you know the levels, right? Many like girls in today's age, they're very in their masculine, like Ali was talking about. They also have this feeling of like being untouchable and like it's like very privileged. So when they're talking to you or they're blasting you or arguing with you or whatever, it's them demeaning you while arguing with you or getting at you or, escalating their tone or their volume to a point in which in the outside world it would not fly. But because this is your partner or your spouse and they love you or whatever, they're letting certain things go, which then feeds more into the ego that, oh, okay, I can treat you however I want or yell. And this is very masculine energy. Men who do this amongst other men would be put in their place physically. Like you would get yelled at or whatever. And if it escalated, it would grow into physical violence. Men understand this. Women, that's not the same case amongst women. Like, so in a diet, like in a relationship with your man, especially if you have a man who's trying to dialogue with you, not argue, and you're trying to build it into an argument.
But I think, again, going on the opposite end, it's assuming that every guy out there wants to have a dialogue with
But
you.
that's different.
That's the biggest
Yeah.
thing with dating now and dating in our age, because Sam's obviously dating women, I'm dating men. It's a huge thing. So I know for me, there's zero communication on their end. So they don't want to talk. And then sometimes it becomes an argument because we're not talking about anything. If we were just discussing, if we were just communicating whatever the issue may be, 9 times out of 10 it doesn't have to become an argument, it doesn't have to become yelling. But a lot of the times when it does, at least from my experience, it was never me who started that. It was never like I'm basically giving what I've been given. And so for it to become an argument, become any of that, it's because that's how they are sometimes. So he's saying, the woman's demeaning and disrespecting him in ways, but then guys are doing the same thing. And
Right.
we can't just sit there and like I've always been taught I'm not going to just sit there and let them say things about me or say anything about my character. So then of course I'm gonna fight back. But then that's just like it's only
That's
fair,
just the
right?
competition of it. Yeah, it's the competition of it.
That
There's
was
no,
not always started by the female though. That's the thing.
no, of course, I'm not saying it is, but that you see that response is the competition of it. It's the I can't be the, I can't, no.
I think that's human though, Sam. That's not even male and female. It's
Yeah,
like anybody who's offending you, you're not gonna sit there and be like, okay,
Of
I'll just let them
course,
beat
of
the shit
course,
out of
but
me.
that is spiked in today's, like, I don't know exactly how to explain it to you in a way because you guys are all women, right? I have no other man to kind of draw the reference where you guys can kind of cooperate with yourselves and back. I
Can I ask
see
you a
amongst,
question though? Like, sorry to cut you off. Can I
no,
ask
go
you
on, go on.
a question?
Mhm.
So this is happening in your relationship, like let's say after how long?
So not me personally. I have a lot of guy friends who say are talking to girls or getting into relationships and XYZ.
Yeah.
And the common thing is women don't respect you as a man
Mhm.
because they can do what you can, period. So
Okay.
I can take myself out, I can buy myself this, I can do all these things that you are supposed to or can do for me. So
Right.
when you have this discontention, I don't really care because anything you can do, I can do. So I can fix it for myself. You're just not being XYZ, and then they carry on into these things that they're not doing.
Because I feel like this is just my opinion, okay? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like if this was a 6 month to a year,
Mhm.
this shouldn't be happening in a relationship because you would have established respect for the other person, whether it's a guy dating a girl or a girl dating a guy. And I feel like if it is happening, then there's no respect there. There's no relationship. There's no relationship that's going to happen or flourish.
Yeah. I
And
think
basically
no, no,
like
go,
he
go,
was saying, right? You're saying, I can do it and I don't need you to do it for me, right? In my opinion, and it's just like the way that I live, I gladly look for someone to do that for me. But
now,
that's the thing.
now.
There's so many who will not and don't, and then they kind of like you're getting your perspective from your friends, right? They might come to you and say this, but you also don't really know them in that relationship. And then I can hear from all the girls talks and them talking about their boyfriends, and their boyfriends don't do any of that. They don't talk to them, they don't hang out with them, they don't do anything that is just customary in relationships nowadays and in customary of like a guy, like if you're saying a male role to do. So then, of course, it just becomes a problem where, yeah, you kind of lack respect for your partner because they're not even stepping up to the plate to be a partner the way that either you expect or they should be, right? So it's like you're kind of just fighting on your own at this point. And then the guys can go back and say, "Oh, well, they're always arguing with me. They're always being this way," but then they kind of ignore the things that they're not doing as a
It
partner.
sounds to me like there's two things that came to mind when you guys were talking. One, it sounds to me like they don't. There's three things. Okay, one, it sounds to me like there's clear expectations of the other partner that are probably not being
I was just going to say that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Don't believe that you can meet those. Like there's like that. Don't believe that it can.
I think both parties are probably not getting their needs or expectations met, which is what's causing these problems in the first place.
Mm.
It's like dating potential. That's saying.
Pardon me?
Like dating potential and not dating the actual.
Mhm.
Well, it just sounds also like everybody's thinking, what's in it for me? Like, why this person is supposed to be doing this,
Pretty
is supposed
much.
to be doing that, supposed to be doing that, and why aren't they doing these things for me? And I'm entitled to this, and so that's what it sounds like is happening. And the other thing is that I will give advice to all women. Okay, right now, do not ever touch a man's ego. Like that is the worst thing you can do in a relationship. You can argue with your man, but don't ever demasculinate him. Don't ever demasculinate your man, because that once you do that, that is the beginning of the end of the relationship. Like there's nothing worse you can do to a man than make him feel small. Like that's the worst thing you can do. You can have disagreements about different topics, but don't demasculinate. Also, obviously, with women, you have to be respectful. But I think women can take it differently than a man can. A man's ego is so important.
Fragile. It's like a cup. Yeah, it's like a squishy red cup. But like, I think a lot of that, because I mentioned it earlier, right? We've created like, because there's this whole division, right, between men and women now. You have like this thing where if you believe in certain masculine traits and certain masculine concepts, you are this like toxic misogynist and XYZ. If you believe in, super liberal thinking, you're this super feminist, whatever. There's a big divide. I know a lot of men feel, right, because of how society's kind of went forward and whatnot, there's really no, like, you'll have women who say, we actually don't need men. We only need men for their sperm, right? Because we can do everything. We can work these factories ourselves. We can do all these things ourselves. Men nowadays feel if you can't offer anything, there is no value to being a man. Hence why the suicide rate is so high, because men feel, okay, if I don't get into this Ivy League school and become this super corporate 6-figure guy with, this super tall athletic body, I'm not going to acquire the woman that, might want me. Then there's guys who are, say, like that, and they're dogging like 20 girls at a time because that's who all the girls are kind of going for, right? So you have this oversaturated side of players, as you guys would call them, right? They have either the looks, the money, or the network. And then you have these guys on the other side who are working hard, they're going to school, whatever, but they just don't have the game to pull these girls.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And when they do get a girl, it's like this, what would you call it? Like a survival instinct. Like, I can't let it go. Like, I'm never going to let her go. And that might be smothering to some girls, it might create issues. It might create tension. It might, So I think it's deep. It's a deeper issue with men and
I feel like it's
women.
almost, what's the word I'm looking for? It's almost like, not like caveman days. Women are always looking for the guy who's going to be able to protect and provide. I think to some extent that's natural and normal, but I agree with what you're saying. I think that because of the extreme feminism that's come out now, like I used to call myself a feminist because all that meant was that I feel like I have the same basic rights as men. Right.
Yeah.
But now it's changed. The definition for feminism has completely changed now to almost meaning we don't need men or we hate men. And I don't subscribe to that. So I understand there's like an extreme
business.
yeah, there's an extreme view, and that's also pushing and polarizing the men too, because we've had this discussion. I don't even know how I want to open this can of worms up here again, but I've talked about this before. There's like the rise of Andrew Tate and Andrew Tate's huge cult following of men. And I am not a fan of his at all, but I understand why he has the following he has.
What about Jordan Peterson? Sorry.
I love Jordan Peterson. I love Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
I love
So
him.
what he's doing, he's
Yeah.
taking what Jordan Peterson says and he's taking it to the far extreme, which resonates. And this is what's kind of like the issue, because a lot of guys gravitated towards Jordan Peterson, right? That was the firm, assertive delivery of masculinity, right? Like, as a man, this is what you should be doing. As a boy, like, you have to face your darkness and go on that adventure and like all of these things, right? And you had a large pool of men that gravitated towards that and that understood that. And then you had a group of men that didn't, right? Because its concept and how he was teaching it was soft. Andrew Tate took that and blew it up to the extreme in very extreme ways. Hence why you probably don't like it. But so many guys subscribe because it's like the way we're living is extreme. A girl will have, OnlyFans. She'll make more money than you selling pictures of her body or XYZ and clown you as a guy. Like, you're broke. You're broke. And meanwhile, they're,
Sorry, going off of the broke thing. I think what people are not realizing is when you are with somebody, having that combined income is better than having your own income by itself, regardless of how much the other person is making.
Don't
I think yeah, I agree with you, and that's obviously common sense. But I think what's happening is that a lot of women are using this as a position of power or upper hand over the man. And
payback.
Yeah, and it's just kind of, it doesn't work. Like the dynamic, it's I know nobody's going to agree with me, but it's an unnatural dynamic for the woman to be the dominant one over the man. It's not a natural dynamic. So that will cause problems later on down the road, because they're supposed to be equal, but in different ways. So I believe that men and women are created equal, but we have different roles. We have different places, parts to play in the relationship and in the world. Not that women are beneath men or men are beneath women. We're both created for a purpose.
Yeah.
But I just think that we've kind of got all of that confused, and
we're to complement one another.
Complementary, thank you. Yeah, I believe in complementarianism, whatever. Yeah.
I think there is a saying, like, and this is why I bring it back to faith, because God made Adam for himself, God made Eve for Adam. So there's a hierarchy in the creation for a reason. Men are supposed to follow God. Their main focus is supposed to be their relationship with God. If you have a good relationship with God, your relationship with your wife should be good.
Amen.
Like, just,
I agree with
it
that.
should be a full circle type thing. And if you are following God and your wife is following you, in essence, you're all just following God. So nobody's really following, what I mean? Like,
I agree 100%. And I think that that's the thing that's the hardest to understand. And that's the hardest thing for people, for women, especially women who are Christian. Like, I know a lot of Christian women who have, and myself included, it was a really hard time to understand that those verses in the Bible that talk about women, obeying your husband or whatever. What was the word that was used in the Bible verse?
Obey your husband.
It wasn't just obey. It was like
submit.
Thank you. And I think when you hear that right off the bat, obviously women are like, no, I'm not doing that. I understand why, because of the world that we live in, because there are no godly men. I don't want to submit to a man who isn't godly.
But can I say something?
Yeah.
But if you find the right man, you will naturally submit.
Yeah. If the man fears God,
Right.
That's how I feel about it. If the man fears
And it
not
won't feel like
acting
you're
in
submitting.
line with that, then
Yeah.
it's easy to submit. It's easy. You want to submit to him because it takes a lot of pressure off of you.
Yeah.
But it's not the case most of the time, I feel like.
Yeah, it's definitely not the case basically at all. But
Yeah.
like that's like this video I've seen on TikTok, and it's what a lot of women say when they feel like they're in a good relationship. It's where they feel like when they're with their man, they can just kind of turn their brain off and don't really have to kind of
Yeah,
think.
something like
and
that.
and that's like for someone like me, like that's what I look for because my brain is always on. I'm independent. I
Amen
live
to
my life.
that.
I work my job. I do everything I need to for myself, and I can, and I do because no one's currently doing it for me. But then my look in like what I'm looking for someone is where they can take that lead. I don't have to tell them to do it. You know what I mean? Like that was always the issue, and that's a lot of the issue with people my age, like with guys my age, where they'll be like, well, you why don't you make the decision, you do it, you do this instead, like you should
Yeah.
try it first. I'm like, okay, I know I can, I definitely can, but why am I doing it?
Mhm.
And why am I always having to just kind of be like planning and doing every single
Be the
thing?
man.
Yeah, and that's the worst thing when you're in a relationship with someone who's making you that way, where I don't get to kind of have that rest for myself, especially
Right.
since now in this day and age, I have my life to be independent for, and then going into a relationship where I have to do the same thing again, it's like it can be exhausting.
Yeah. You want to be courted. You want somebody to take the lead and like
Chivalry.
Mm,
chivalry.
But
yeah.
it's also crazy because, like, as much as many women say that, there's few and far between that actually want that. Like,
But do you
Why do you
think
say that?
go on.
men are afraid to be chivalrous? Fear of rejection? Because that's what it sounds like. That's what I'm.
So many, like, okay, speaking personally now, right? There's girls that I've approached and talked to, easy, just okay, goes, whatever flows, doesn't work out, doesn't work out. There's been girls, and Ali knows, I've went, spoken to, given me their number, talked to me, and just, oh, I'm not looking for anything, da 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 da.
Hmm.
So why'd you give me your number?
I think,
Why'd you give me your
and
Instagram?
yeah, and going
Why'd
off
you
that, it's
do
like
these?
the biggest thing is consistency. There's none of that in this dating age where like on the flip side, I could be dating somebody and for 3, 4 months they're being that person. They'll take charge, they'll lead, they'll do everything and make you feel like, okay, you know what, this might be someone I want to be in a relationship with. And then one day flips the switch and
Disappears.
says, never mind, I'm done. And then they're gone. Or they start pulling back and then they don't even care anymore. And it's the lack of consistency. Like I don't, and right,
But
like
then
he's saying, like, she gave the number for what?
that has more to do with them than it does with you.
And that's, yeah, exactly. And I think that's just the issue now
Yeah,
with like both men and women, same thing. Like
people,
they're people kind of just,
they're just chopped.
Do you
yeah.
think that do you think the increase of like dating apps has contributed to that? Because it's so easy now to like it's like shiny toy syndrome, like it's always the next new thing.
I think it kind of goes like back to what I said before about how everybody is always like looking and they think the next best thing is out there, or
Mhm.
they're looking for, oh well, there's just this one problem with this person, so I'm just gonna go look somewhere else then, or they don't even bother to really try with what's in front of them. And dating apps obviously don't help that at all because it's easy to just keep swiping, plan something and meet up with somebody else. So it's like very short attention spans, very like
ADHD dating.
it's
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah.
And that just our generation is just kind of stuck because it's like everyday life when like TikTok videos can be like 20 seconds and we can find ourselves not, yeah, so now we're not really looking for
Oh,
those big things. So instant gratification is huge because then I'm like, okay, well, now we're settling into a comfortable like spot in our relationship, but I don't want to be comfortable. I want exciting. So let me go look somewhere
uh,
else then and forget about that. And
no. The big thing is, the big thing is,
What?
people just smashing way too fast. That is the big thing, because when you connect to so many different people, right? And then someone's actually trying to court you. You can't connect to them because you're so like,
Yeah.
All over the place.
yeah,
Or when somebody is trying, you can't recognize it.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like Sean, like, tell me if I'm wrong. Okay, when we were in university, because Sean and I actually know each other from university.
Mhm.
So when we were in university, people would like sleep around, but it wasn't like first of all, it was taboo. I don't remember it being like a
Yeah.
very it
Yes.
wasn't like something that you would say openly. And then I think that it was like if you were interested in the person, you don't usually give them everything right away.
Right.
Right? That wasn't like that just wasn't I mean, I know there are people who did that, but I feel like it
Yeah,
wasn't
it's a slow burn.
or accepted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
And
was
And I
Not,
think it goes back to the instant gratification problem with everyone our age, where we
Yeah.
feel like if I do that, maybe he'll like me more, or maybe he'll like choose me over anybody else he might be talking to, and then that kind of just leads the guy to be like, okay, well, I got it, and I'm just gonna move on, or I'm gonna
Yeah.
go here,
sadly.
because it's like you're
Yeah.
kind of just grabbing what you're getting and you're done.
I
And
feel like
that's
girls are like that too though now. Girls are also
oh
like
yeah,
I just want to bounce around and sleep with as many people as
Why?
possible.
Why? Because they're
Yeah.
in their masculine. Oh, you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
Because they don't see it the same. They don't see it the same. Look,
Yeah.
I'm like, I know, like, okay, let's say out of 10 of my friends, at least three, guys, right, see sex as like, bro, I'm not just doing it with anyone. Because, like, like, they all have their different reasons, but it comes back to it's just not good for them, right? On the
Mhm.
flip side, you have girls who are moving like guys, man. Like they move like guys. And then you have girls who are in relation like there's guys who are good. Like they're good at playing the game. You know what I mean? They say what they say, they do what they do until a
Just
certain point.
I think
And
it
then
also
they
is
say, like,
correlated. I want to add this because I think this is important. I think all of this that you're saying, Sam, and everything that we're talking about the women who are kind of moving in, as you say, their masculine energy.
mhm.
I think it's also correlated with the rise in not only birth control but abortions.
Yes.
Because I know people who've had like 5 abortions.
Yeah.
That's 5 babies. 5. So that's a
yeah.
lot. And I think that has to do with like because it's so easy now.
Hmm.
There's as much they don't feel that there's as much what's the word I'm looking for?
Commitment,
Responsibility for your
like
actions.
attachment. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like there's no
Gravity. Yeah,
consequence. There's not as
consequence.
much consequence. So I
Yeah.
think that also partly is
That
why.
is actually true. There's a study that the divorce rates actually spiked with the release of like birth control and abortions because it makes sense, right? And especially like before, marriage was a big thing for men to identify if the child was yours, right? Before there was no like paternity test. If a woman was promiscuous and she got pregnant, how could you as a man determine that child was yours? And a big thing biologically, right? Like if we want to keep religion and stuff out of it biologically, a male is designed to share his resources and his protection with his spouse and children. Like if you have a wife and kids, you're innate like you have a drive to want to protect them, provide for them, XYZ, but not if it's not your child. So if you know that child is not yours, it becomes a choice. It's not a like a innate desire or innate drive. It becomes a like a conscious moral choice. Now, if you don't know that child is yours, you could potentially back in the day, right, if you are marrying a promiscuous girl, be raising Jerry's son from down the road and you wouldn't know, right? And this is a problem because like for men passing on your seed, raising children, it's one of the biggest things for you, right? Like women do the choosing, men do the competing. This is the biology of it, right? So there's a lot of men who've never got to have children. They never found a spouse. They died and their genes died with them. Many women had children and their genes are alive today, me and you know. So for I get it. Like with the rise of birth control, now the onus on the women is off. It could be your kid, it could be his kid, nobody's kid. Yeah. And then if you do decide to keep it, there's the benefit of child support. If the man doesn't necessarily want to keep it, it doesn't matter. He's still legally, required to pay
Bound.
child support.
Yeah.
So it's a problem. That's part of the reason why men with marriage and men with children, it's sticky.
Yeah.
You need not religion, but I think faith in order to make it work.
I'm in agreement with you. I don't think everyone else like online might agree with that, but I agree
No,
with you. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I think, and Canada's a really like liberal country too, like extremely liberal, like extreme liberal. So I feel like the most of the attitudes that we have on this podcast tend to be more conservative attitudes,
Mhm.
but I agree with you.
And
Yeah.
there's one
All right.
last thing.
Go for it.
The feminine man, right? Because Ali was speaking about a lot of women, they may not be naturally masculine. They have to live in their masculine because they have highly emotional guys or very, feminine men. And someone has to pay the bills, right? Someone has to play that role. So,
I would say like sorry, you're gonna hear my kids screaming in the background. I don't know about if it's feminine men or not, or like, but I think that, hold on, I lost my train of thought. I think that when we're talking about men who are more feminine and women and you said something about them being more emotional. Hold on,
emotional and submissive. So, like, as a man, we understand, like, okay, this guy kicks me in the shin. I might be super mad, but sometimes you have to press your emotions down, right? Because the results from that emotion, right, may lead you to sin. Like it's the same thing with understanding, checking your emotions and not living through them, right? Sometimes you get jealous. Maybe you shouldn't be jealous. Sometimes you get angry. You shouldn't be angry. There's a lot of guys right now, they feel mad, they're acting on it. Like they don't do any checking, any emotional like check it.
Yeah,
So
it's
you
like
have a lot of
childish.
crime and yeah, exactly. A lot
Yeah,
of
and I think
crime, shootings.
it's less of emotional men. It's just men who lack emotional intelligence.
Sure. Yeah.
So, and that's the way I put it, because I feel like there's no issue with a man being emotional. It's just in the sense of how, right? Like, how are you communicating it? But I feel like that kind of just works for everybody. But genuinely, people who lack emotional intelligence act in like rash ways and don't know how to control their emotions in the way that they need to, and then that's what causes a lot of issues in relationships. So for me, again, it's not even about a man being emotional, it's about them just lacking emotional intelligence.
Yeah. And I think also, Ali, you touched on this a little bit earlier, and I used to say this all the time. I say like women also they want a man, they don't want a child. So they don't want somebody that they have to treat like a child.
Exactly.
Yeah, take care of. Yeah, you want a man. You don't want someone that you have to take care of like a child. So I think that also plays into it as well, like the emotional
Absolutely.
maturity and all that stuff too. Yeah, okay. So I feel like this is a natural place to kind of end our discussion.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and sharing your heart and everything. And I really appreciate both of you staying up so late to talk to us.
No problem.
I would love to have you guys back on another episode where we talk about Gen Z stuff when it comes to money and work.
Oh,
That's the next one I want to talk about. So if you guys are down for that, I'm going to make sure we schedule you in.
For sure.
And thank you guys so much. Have a great night. Have a great week. Thank you everyone for watching. Oh, before I kick everyone out, I got to put up our banners. So just make sure you guys are emailing us questions, comments at the Juice and Jerry podcast. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel if you haven't already. What are you waiting for? If you watched till this point, press that subscribe button. And last but not least, make sure you check us out on Instagram, on TikTok at the Juice and Jerry podcast. Thank you guys. Have a great night.
Peace.
Thank you.